Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Now many of us know this parable that Jesus told of the sower, and we mostly think about, well, where does the seed fall from our efforts, through our sowing? What kind of soil does it fall in? But tonight, I'd like to think about the sower. What happens to the sower after sowing seeds? And what happened to me in these 20 years as a director of YTM? So that's what I'd like to talk about. And it's not just my sowing, but it's our sowing and your sowing of the seed of God's love. Now, oops, that went twice, but this is fine. The two things that are essential here is listening. So in this parable, you get listen twice. And of course, the rule of Benedict says, listen with the ear of your heart. So I've been thinking about what have I, as I've tried to sow God's love through YTM, as I've listened through the years, what have I learned? And I don't know if you can tell what the picture on the left is, but that's the Grinch. And the Grinch heart expanded 3 times. So I like that. I think my heart has expanded from sowing through YTM. And then this is from, I don't know if you know this. Do you know this Little Prince? One of my favorite books. There's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is invisible, what is essential, is invisible to the eye. In this talk, I would like to explore the essential things my heart has seen over the last 20-some years as the director of the Youth and Theology and Ministry program from St. John's School of Theology and Seminary. What are the lessons for my heart and perhaps lessons for your heart? So I received this in an email on Wednesday from Sister Joyce Eiton from St. Benedict's Monastery. And so in 1978 was the first year I had taught for a year English, and then I took the job as a youth minister. And I don't know why she sent it to me Wednesday, but she was going through stuff. And she called me Herbie Schwartz for some reason. I don't exactly know why, but she was one of my mentors. And I just thought, wow, isn't it funny, on the day the week I'm going to give this talk, final talk as director of YTM, I get a picture from when I started. So what was my heart? What are the lessons of my heart in all those years? Now, I have a couple stories about Sister Joyce. So she sent me, let me see if I can get this right. I'll tell you what it says. When I was first a youth minister, and I was frustrated one day, she brought down a placard that says this: if I annoy you, it's mutual. If I annoy you, it's mutual. And I thought, that is I believe that. That's absolutely true. She taught me that you need to be your true self. Years later, when she was a spiritual director, I'd have coffee with her, and she told me this story. She said, as I do spiritual direction, a number of women come to me who say, I feel called to be ordained as priests in the Catholic Church. And she heard that. And then she says something which kind of astounded me. She said, every time I hear that, I read a letter to the bishop and say, this woman feels called to be ordained in the Catholic Church. Just thought I'd let you know. All right. She was a mentor and a teacher for me. So I think, well, we heard a parable about sowing. Jesus told stories. If you know me, you know I love to tell stories. I have about 3 stories that I tell about birds and rabbits and things like that. But I think my life and your life and our lives are parables. And it's probably not a bad idea to think about reading these. And so I'm going to stop sharing here. And I want to tell you a couple stories about teachers of my heart. Okay. The first one happened a long time ago. An 18-year-old college of St. Benedict student came and invited me to coffee at what was then called Meeting Grounds. And we had a cup of coffee, and she said, I love Jesus so much. I want to be a youth minister. And I heard you are a professor and you teach youth ministry classes. Tell me what classes to take. Tell me what to do. You know, I'm just on fire for Christ. Okay, so she studied theology. She studied women's studies. She was a YTM counselor for 4 years, so she was hired. Her 3rd year, our focus of YTM was on the RCIA, the Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults. And we went through the idea of, what if you weren't already baptized? Would you freely choose as young people to enter into the Catholic Church? So we went through the different aspects of this rite. And Krista had the night called Enrollment of Names. And this typically happens on the first Sunday of Lent. All the catechumens go to the cathedral of the diocese, and they actually write their name in the book, Enrollment of Names. Say, I want to spend Lent discerning seriously about entering the Catholic Church. So that was her night to lead this session. And so she comes to me 2 nights before she was to lead this, and she says this, Jeff, I'm not sure I can honestly say I would sign that book right now. I absolutely believe in the mission of Jesus Christ to change the world with love, but I'm not sure I can commit to the church, to the Catholic Church. And I'm not sure, you know, she said this directly to me, if you don't want me to lead this tonight, I won't. Okay, what did she teach me? She taught me a powerful question that I've thought about for years. Should I, as a sower, foster authentic expressions of faith, even if it may mean leaving the Catholic Church? That's a powerful question and a hard question. The rest of the story. After graduation, Krista got an MA in social work. She has been working with refugees in Africa, Asia, and Australia. She told me a story of working with women and men who had been tortured. And she uses her love and compassion and her social skills to be the hands and feet and ear of compassion and love of Jesus Christ. I probably have as much respect for Krista Senden as anyone I know, because she lives it out. What is interesting to me is the last 2 times I talked to her, I don't talk to her that often, she said, I am really longing for a spiritual community. And I think there's such wisdom in that. We need a spiritual community. Now, my second teacher of my heart happens to be on this call, and actually Kristen, I think, is on this call too. She's a staff member now. She's Leslie Gonzalez Berrigan. And she taught me two lessons. The first one at a hunger banquet a few years ago, she shared so honestly and courageously about coming from a family. Her parents, when she was having serious health issues, gave up their bed so that she could have a bed. And I was so touched by her vulnerability and by the love of her parents. And she taught me. But that was not the big lesson she taught me. The big lesson she taught me was last year. And I have to read this because I wrote what she said. And the second lesson was about cultural diversity. She told me, we hired her as our Latino outreach coordinator for YTM to invite Latinos, Latina, Latinx students to come to YTM. She told me this, listen to this sentence. I am so tired of explaining to white people the reality of racism in our society and our school. I am so tired of explaining racism to white people. Not only do I have to live with it every day, but I'm just so tired of white people expecting me to explain it to them. I wish I could say my heart cracked open with compassion, but my heart cracked open with challenge. How was I, as a white male, participating in racism? How was I participating in continuation of systems that exclude people? Why have I asked her so often to teach me about inclusion? Maybe it's time for me to learn. Maybe it's time for all of us to learn about what's happening. So, did you notice who my three teachers of my heart were? Three women. Did you notice that all three had connections to justice? I think there's a lesson for our hearts expanding by listening to women, listening to justice. So those were my teachers, but there were two big lessons that I really learned through the whole 20 years. Two essential lessons. And the first one, and everyone will recognize this who's been part of YTM, is we need each other. We need community. Kyle beautifully in the introduction talked about a beloved community. We need to know that we're with people who find us beloved. It makes all the difference in the world. Why is it so hard to find? We need a beloved community that encourages us to be our true selves, that allows for faith and doubt, right? It allows for the dignity of every human person, whether you're gay or straight or transgender or black or brown or whatever. Everyone is created in the image and likeness of God. And God has this vision of a beloved community. So if you look at this, it's like God is saying, bring us in. Bring us into God's love. God is a community of love, right? And God is saying, come to me, all who are weary. Now, so beloved community, I bet if you were going to ask, if I asked most of you what I was going to say tonight, you would have said that. The second thing is mission. what I've learned from YTM, and my heart has learned, is that community without mission is hollow. Community without mission is simply, wow, we really like each other. Aren't we grand? But community with mission is like, we want to change the world. We're part of the solution rather than part of the problem. I've recognized pretty early on that YTM was really about a leadership development project for youth and college students and grad students. And the leadership development was developing capacity for leadership and mission to change the world. So if you know people from YTM, look at people and look at what incredible leaders they are, right? Okay, so those are my two ideas. Now, I went through 20 years of photos on Thursday. So I thought pictures say a lot more than words. So I want to show you some pictures from the last 20 years of YTM that kind of highlight these points. Okay. So think about beloved community. Look at these faces. These are 4 former counselors from YTM. Many of you don't know who they are. Krista, Ted, John, and Emily. They all graduated. They were all seniors that year. After YTM, a week or two later, we went out to Mexican Village and talked about YTM and their futures. But just look at these faces. Do you see a beloved community? Look at these faces. Do you see? I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. Do you see my wish is that they may be one? Beloved, together? Do you see it? One of the things that we've been working on is we can't be a beloved community if we're just a community of all white people. How do we develop a beloved community that's inclusive of more than just white culture? And one of the things that I'm really proud of is over the years, we went to mosques or Islamic centers, and this beloved community just is expanding circles, saying it's not just Catholics who are beloved, it's not just Christians who are beloved, it's not just actually even Muslims and Christians and Jews who are beloved. Everyone's beloved. Everyone belongs. That's God's vision. Mission. Now, Jesus gave the example of washing feet. We do that at YTM. The picture on the left is young people at a community garden, learning about sustainable agriculture, learning about environmental justice. Youth did all sorts of projects between summer 1 and summer 2, filled with justice and service. So how does this mission and beloved community happen? Well, there's a number of ways that it happens, but one of them is there has to be some education and there has to be some theology. That's what YTM does. We have teachers. We're learners. A disciple is a learner. And what's been really surprising is how many young people and how many college students and how many graduate students are so excited to learn more about God and faith and the tradition and try to figure out what they're going to do with their life with it. Really, one of the hallmarks of YTM is prayer. These pictures are so beautiful. If you've been to YTM, and we experienced a little bit of the Taizé prayer around the cross. I don't know if you can really get to beloved community and a community dedicated to mission without prayer and without consistent prayer. And I think our monastic and religious community members have so much to teach us about the disciplines of prayer and service and justice. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that my heart was cracked open by pure joy. Pure joy. Now, it's been a long time, 1978 to 2020. When I boil it all down, when I boil all of these lessons down, it comes back to really our motto for YTM. Frederick Buechner, a theologian, his definition of vocation: discovering one's deep gladness for the world's deep need. And I think that's what the great heart opening for me has been. This has been complete joy. And I hope and I trust that as a sower and engaging with other sowers, high school sowers and college sowers and graduate sowers and theologians who are sowers, that we are addressing a world, deep need of the world. So I want to end with just two words before we end in prayer: joy and gratitude. Joy and gratitude. What incredible joy YTM has been to me. I also have to thank all of the youth who came to YTM. I want to thank all of the adult mentors and graduate students. I want to thank all the vocation partners who walked with us, all the advisory council members, of course, all the donors, all the members of the monastic community. I want to thank the staff and faculty of the School of Theology. I want to thank Lynn, my wife, and my family for their support through all of this. And I have on this picture the staff here for this year. And I think we're missing George and Leslie, but I'm so grateful to the staff. If you've been to these sessions, did you notice that it was college students who led all these sessions? Did you notice that? They're sowers. How cool is that? And if you've been part of YTM, you know that the high school students go out and sow the seed of God's love also. So my heart has expanded 3 sizes. Maybe I'm not exactly the Grinch, but I know that's true. I am most grateful for this. My challenge for all of you is this. What are you learning? What are you learning as you sow the seeds of God's love? Are you finding deep joy? Are you trying to use your caroms to meet a need? Are you finding a beloved community? And how is your sowing going? Let's end with prayer. Just please bow your heads. Good and gracious God, thank you for these years of joy and gratitude at YTM. I ask you to bless YTM as it takes its new steps to a new adventure, to foster missionary discipleship, foster excitement for theological learning, foster discernment of vocational calls to find deep gladness for the world's deep need. Jesus, we have begun every session of YTM with prayer. And now I end my final talk with just saying thank you. Thank you for being with us. Amen.